In January 1959, 9 young Soviet hikers set off into the Ural Mountains, experienced, well-equipped, and completely unaware that none of them would ever return. They were students and graduates of the Ural Polytechnic Institute, young, ambitious, and among the most skilled hikers in the Soviet Union. Their leader was Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old engineering student, known for his calm leadership and obsession with the outdoors. The group's goal was to reach Ural Mountain, a Grade 3 trek, the most difficult category, but well within their abilities. On January 25th, the group departed from the last human settlement, a small village called Vale, and disappeared into the wilderness. They carried diaries, cameras, and enough food for weeks, documenting every moment of what they believed would be the adventure of their lives. For the first few days, everything went exactly as planned. The group moved steadily through the frozen Ural wilderness. On February 1st, they began their ascent of Kolatsyakl, a desolate, wind-blasted slope, whose name in the local Mansi language means dead mountain. A sudden blizzard forced them to stop. They pitched their tent on the open slope, rather than descend to the safety of the tree line below. That decision, to camp on the open slope instead of retreating downhill, would be the last decision they ever made together. Inside the tent, the 9 hikers ate dinner, wrote in their diaries, and settled in for the night, warm, safe, and completely unaware of what was about to happen. Then, sometime in the early hours of February 2nd, something happened. Nobody knows what that something was. And that is what makes the Dyatlov Pass the most terrifying, unsolved mystery in modern history. When search parties finally reached the camp weeks later, they found the tent, still standing, but cut open from the inside. Inside the tent, they found everything: food, warm clothing, boots, backpacks, all left behind as if the 9 hikers had simply vanished into thin air. The hikers had fled their tent in the middle of the night, in temperatures of -30 degrees Celsius, without their boots, without their coats, without any survival gear. Whatever they were running from, they were more afraid of it than they were of freezing to death in the dark. The first 2 bodies were found at the edge of the tree line, frozen, shoeless, dressed only in underwear, their hands burned as if they had tried to build a fire. High in the branches of the pine tree above them, investigators found broken branches, evidence that someone had climbed the tree, desperately trying to see something in the darkness. 3 more bodies were found nearby, lying in a line between the tree line and the tent, as if they had been trying to return but never made it. The medical examiner confirmed their cause of death, hypothermia, but noted something deeply strange. They showed no signs of panic or struggle. Then the search teams found the last 4, hidden under 4 meters of snow in a ravine, and everything changed. These 4 bodies were different. They had massive internal injuries, crushed ribs, fractured skulls, a missing tongue, yet their skin showed almost no external wounds. The lead forensic examiner later testified that the force required to cause those injuries was equivalent to being hit by a car, yet there was no car, no avalanche, and no attacker. Some of the victims' clothing tested positive for abnormally high levels of radiation, a detail the Soviet government tried to suppress for decades. Several witnesses in nearby villages reported seeing strange, glowing, orange spheres floating in the night sky over the Ural Mountains on the night of February 2nd. The Soviet military was also conducting secret tests in the region at the time, but all records remain classified to this day. The Soviet government closed the investigation in May 1959, declaring the cause of death a vague and deeply unsatisfying phrase, an unknown compelling force. The pass was named after Igor Dyatlov and sealed from public access for 3 years, while the Soviet government said nothing more. For decades, the case was buried, but it never stayed buried for long, because the questions it left behind were simply too disturbing to ignore. Over the years, investigators, journalists, scientists, and conspiracy theorists from around the world have proposed dozens of theories, each one raising more questions than it answers. Theory 1, an avalanche, seems logical at first, but the snow around the tent was undisturbed, and no avalanche debris was found anywhere on the slope. Theory 2, an attack by the indigenous Mansai people, was quickly ruled out, as the Mansi had no history of violence and no footprints other than the hikers' own were ever found. Theory 3, infrasound, suggests that wind patterns over the mountain may have created a low-frequency sound wave that causes humans to experience overwhelming panic and terror. In 2019, the Russian government officially reopened the case and after a year-long investigation announced their conclusion: a slab avalanche triggered by wind. But investigators and experts worldwide immediately rejected the conclusion, pointing out that it still failed to explain the radiation, the missing tongue, or the internal injuries with no external marks. The radiation remains perhaps the most disturbing detail, because there is simply no natural explanation for it being there. Some researchers believe the hikers may have encountered a secret Soviet weapons test, a pressure wave weapon capable of causing massive internal injuries without breaking the skin. Others point to the photographs recovered from the hikers' own cameras, images taken in the final hours that show something unexplained in the night sky above the camp. The last photograph taken on Dyatlov's camera shows only darkness, but at the very edge of the frame, there is a faint light source that no one has ever been able to identify. Today, the Dyatlov Pass still stands exactly as it did in 1959, silent, remote, and holding its secret as tightly as it ever has. Every year, new hikers visit the pass, drawn by the mystery, walking the same path the 9 students walked, sleeping under the same cold sky. But none of them have found the answer, because some questions, it seems, were never meant to be answered.